GBC News and on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Maurice Ogbete. Tonight on Market Avenue, we're going to be taking a monthly review of the performance of the Ghana Stock Exchange for the month of November. In this particular month, the market saw some 2.45 point increase in the main index. We also saw the year-to-date return at 47.6% and the market capitalization at 64.5 billion. We'll speak to James Affo. He is with CDH to tell us what's been driving the market for the month of November and also the outlook for December and for that matter the end of the year. Also on the bill tonight, we'll be talking about fuel prices because the Institute of Energy Securities is predicting that fuel prices will go down marginally at the pump because we see some marginal decline of crude oil prices on the international market. We'll be speaking to Fritz Moses with the Institute of Energy Securities, who will tell us what exactly is influencing the drop in crude oil prices and how long this particular reduction is going to be sustained. Is it into the year 2022? These are some of the questions we'll be posing to Fritz Moses with the Institute of Energy Securities. We'll also take you to Parliament. We'll try and understand what's the current state of the 2022 budget. Yesterday, the minority in Parliament tried to annul the approval made by the majority a couple of days ago. We will be speaking to our parliamentary correspondents to understand exactly what has happened to that particular budget and what's next for the 2022 budget. As we speak, that particular document has been approved, but it's been contested. And so at this point, we'll go and get our biz language for today. When we come, we'll speak to James Affo with CDH. We're live on GBC News and on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. As I advertised earlier on, we'll be looking at a monthly review of the Ghana Stock Exchange. And so James Affo with CDH joins me with some analysis of what's transpired in the month of November. Good evening to you, James, if you can hear me.
Good evening, Mr.
Right.
Morris.
So even before we look at what transpired last month, let's look at how the market performed today. And so we see the main composite index going down some 1.2 points for today by close of trading. And the year-to-date return has dropped from the 47.5% we saw in the month of November. Now we're doing some 46.3%. And the financial stock index also dropped marginally, 2.17 points to record 17.19%. The market capitalization at 64.219 billion Ghana cedis. James, can you give us an overview of how the market performed today by close of trading?
Today's performance, as I said, wasn't all that good because one price change was recorded, and that happened to be a decliner.
Right.
So it affected the performance of the market negatively, as you rightly said.
And that's Cowbank, right?
That of Cowbank.
Sure.
It went down by 3.something%, and that affected the performance of the market. So I would say today's performance wasn't all that good.
Right, but we've seen a particular trend. I think from the beginning of December till now, we've seen some marginal declines. What exactly is happening on the market, James?
Well, this thing basically is a cycle. Normally, during the last quarter of every year, this downward trend in prices, okay, because this is a time that a lot of investors try to sell some of their holdings to raise money for the upcoming eczema.
Right.
So what we are witnessing is that a lot of people are selling, as again those are buying. So the pressure from the sellers is now pushing the price downward.
But James, I was thinking that when people sell, I mean, the market becomes active and then it goes up. That's not the case?
Yes, it depends. It's like everyone intends selling. And if indeed you don't have a lot of people taking up those offers, and that means those buying will then have the opportunity to bargain for lower prices. Because if sellers are more than buyers, it means the thing is very common on the market. So
Right.
what would you do? As a rational investor, you may bargain for lower prices. And once I am in need to get some cash, I may not be bothered to decrease the price of the asset that I'm holding. So normally when we have a lot of sellers, as again those buying, the buyers will have the opportunity to bargain. The bookers wanting for the buyers will have the opportunity to bargain for lower prices. And that's what we are witnessing. Right.
So James, this particular argument that you make, does it hold for MTN? We've seen MTN not doing so well as it does. This argument that you make, does it affect MTN, or there's something peculiar and unique about why MTN is not really coming to the market as it does all the time?
Yeah, MTN stock, well, it's a long-term stock. It is a value stock as well. But then it is one of the most patronized instruments that we have. And normally, stocks are long-term instruments. So you buy with the intention of holding it for a longer period of time for it to appreciate in value. But there are situations where people may also genuinely need money. So they may also be tempted to sell to get whatever money that they have. So MTN price has been dropping over the weeks just because a lot of people are selling as against those buying. So the pressure from the sellers is now causing the price to.
So finally, before we wrap up on today's analysis, can you also tell us any story behind Cowbank? They saw some 2 Peswa, lost today. Is there anything unique that caused the equity to go down, Cowbank?
Well, it is not something that I think people should bother or afraid of. It is one of the shocks that we normally encounter on the market. So what happened is people were able to bargain for lower prices, and they indeed had it. That's why the stock declined in value. But then it was very marginal, from 87 pesos to 85. Bottom, it will by all means clump up again when the demand for it increases. But this very quarter happened to be a quarter that most of the time you see investors disposing of their assets to get some money for the estimates and the like. So the season is a major cause for the downward trend that we are experiencing.
Right. So let's do the monthly analysis now. In the month of November, the market went up marginally, 2.45 points, and we see the year-to-date return dropping from around 57% in the month of October to 47.6%. Can you give us a brief overview of how the market performed in the month of November?
November performance to me wasn't bad comparatively to that of October, because as you rightly said, most of the indicators, that's what we use to measure the performance of the market, are appreciated in value. The CI, which is the composite index, appreciated by 0.86. The financial stock index also went up by 0.44. The year-to-date return increased from 47.5 to 47.65. Though they were marginal, they were not much, but then once they were positive, I would think the performance was better. And as I indicated earlier, during the last quarter happened to be a quarter that a lot of investors tried to sell. So even on the market, you could see that every day the offer, that's those outstanding offer, always exceed outstanding bid. That is the cumulative of those who are buying are less than those who intend to sell.
Right.
So brokers fronting for both parties may then have the opportunity. So with what we are experiencing, a lot of people are selling. So brokers fronting for the buyers who have the upper hand to bargain for lower prices. And that's what we are witnessing. These are temporary shocks. It doesn't mean that the market is actually suffering from.
So finally, before I let you go, what's the outlook? How will the market perform even as the year winds down? Are we going to see it go up to the 50% plus by way of year-to-date return, or are we going to be remaining around the 47-46% as the year goes to an end, James?
Well, the bid and offer dynamics that we have, and this month also happened to be the last month where lots of things are going to happen. People basically need it. So, well, in a worst case scenario, I'm anticipating projecting around the year-to-day return may decline slightly, but it will not be below 40%. That's what I'm forecasting.
Right.
For this month.
Right. Also,
we expect.
No, go ahead.
So what I'm trying to say is that we expect to end the year on the higher end, at least 40% won't be bad. So for the market.
Right. Also, in your monthly analysis, we saw the cedi depreciate some 2.5% to the dollar and to the euro. Are you able to tell us quickly what has triggered this particular depreciation of the cedi?
Well, the cedi depreciation during the last quarter mostly is attributed to increase in demand for foreign currency.
Right.
This is a time that most businesses are buying stocks, and unfortunately, Ghana happens to be import-dependent country. Most of the goods are imported, so a lot of businesses are buying goods from outside the country to stock up so as to meet increase in demand. So the demand for foreign currency basically has gone up in the last quarter, and that is basically piling the pressure that we to dip.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. James Afo is with CDH Investment there. We'll go for a short break. When we come, we'll be talking about fuel prices, seeing some marginal decline at the pump. Stay with us. Back, is still watching Market Avenue live on GBC News. And so, as I said, we see a marginal decline in crude oil prices on the international market, and that, according to the Institute of Energy Securities, is going to affect fuel prices at the pump. I've been joined by Fritz Moses. He is with the Institute of Energy Securities. Good evening to you, Mr. Moses.
Good evening, and thanks for having me. Good evening to your listeners.
Right. So, what is informing your analysis, your prediction that we're going to see crude oil, fuel prices going down at the pump, apart from the fact that we see some trending down of crude oil prices on the market?
All right. So, to begin with, we need to understand that there are two main variables that are influencing the price of crude or fuel on the Ghanaian local market. Now, these are the international market factors and also the cedi exchange rate. And so, for the period that just ended, the window just ended, that the second pricing window of November, that began from late October, mid-November to the end of the month. We saw that on the international market, prices of crude, that's the international benchmark Brent, fell by some 3.6%. That reduction also saw a commensurate reduction in the prices of the finished products. And so here you're looking at petrol, you're looking at diesel, you're looking at LPG, and other finished products from oil. And we saw that for petrol, we saw prices fall by some 7%, and also for diesel, prices fell by some 4.5%. Now, because we are in a deregulated market, we expect that the BDCs that would buy products on the international market would, we would see this price reduction also reflect in the prices at which they will sell their products to the OMCs. Now, the local factors where we have the CD exchange rate against the US dollar, we saw that the CD marginally depreciated against the US dollar in the window that just ended.
Sure.
Depreciating by some 0.33% in the last window, from around 6.13 CDs to the US dollar. It was currently around 6.15 CDs to the US dollar. And despite the reduction or the depreciation of the CD, you don't see that affecting prices or affecting the reduction and causing a steady prices.
Right.
What we see rather is that it would limit the rate of reduction that you would expect for the local Ghanaian markets. And so we are looking at 3% reduction in the prices of petrol and diesel in the local markets here in Ghana.
Right. You are saying that you expect. Is it an expectation, or you are cocksure that we're going to see a reduction based on your analysis and your interaction with players in the Ghanaian market?
Yes, our market analysis indicates that prices are expected to go up or should go down in the first half or the first pricing window of December. Now, the expectation is that the BDCs will act in accordance to what has been experienced in the market, because at the end of the day, they are the ones trading on the international market, and they are the ones that are affected by price fluctuations on the international market. If that does not happen, I'm also expecting, we would see NPA also play its role as a regulator in the markets, the downstream markets, ensuring that the margins that the various BDCs will put on their price will commensurate with what has happened on the international market. We know that the NPA also has been analyzing and following the trends on the pricing of petroleum products, the finished products on the international market. And so they would also be able to regulate the margins that the various VDCs would put on their price.
Right. So let's understand exactly what's pushing crude oil prices to fall. Is it the new COVID wave, or the fact that OPEC has announced that they're going to be pumping some 400,000 barrels of oil per day next year? Is that announcement affecting anything?
Yeah. So what we have been following, or what we've been suspecting to cause the reduction in the international market has been two main things. Now, prior in the early stages of the window, somewhere on the 12th and 13th of November, 15th also of November, we had there were speculations in the market that the United States, UK, China, and some other allies were planning on releasing their strategic national reserves, and that would mean that they will put onto the market more supply, resulting in an oversupply of the product, the oil product, and then essentially also drawing down or forcing prices to go down. And so at that point in time, we saw prices fall somewhere around $78, $79 per barrel, anticipating that in the subsequent days, when the various nations, US, China, South Korea, Japan, UK, when they announce their draw from their strategic petroleum reserve, we'll see prices continue to fall. But unfortunately, what happened was when US announced the fall, their draw from the strategic petroleum reserve somewhere last week, Wednesday, the market didn't really take. What we rather saw was an uprise or an uptick in prices on the international market. Right. At the end of the last 2 weeks, Friday, we saw prices around $78, $79 per barrel. But on the announcement of the draw in of strategic reserve in US, prices rose to around $81. Unfortunately for the oil market, in the same week ending last week, we had news of the breakout of the new COVID variant, that's the Omicron, which expectations by market analysts and traders were that it would cause a further drop down in economic activity, fall in demand for petroleum products and oil, and so that speculation or that news is force prices to also come down more.
So Moses, Moses, quickly before you go, this drop we see in, or we are expecting in fuel prices, how long is it going to last? Its sustainability.
I think it's you.
I'm saying the drop that you are expecting in fuel prices is it going to last maybe into early next year, mid next year, or I mean, how long do you expect it to last?
Yes. Now the expectation is that the drop would essentially be for at least so the first half of December.
Right.
And what you are seeing on the market is that prices are starting to tick up again because the market is now correcting itself. I mean, after the news of the Omicron variant and all that. But then again, we think that should the virus continue to persist and then several reported cases of it be made out, then we may see prices remain steady for some time, probably till we enter next year.
Right. So thank you very much. Fritz Moses is with the Institute of Energy Securities there. We'll go for a short break. When we return, we'll be going to Parliament and bring you latest on what's happening in the House. Stay with us. Come back, my colleague Humo. She's our parliamentary correspondent. She joins me via phone. Good evening to you, Humo. So as we speak, the 2022 budget remains approved. Is that correct?
The budget, the budget remains approved depending on which side you are on, actually, because the minority claims that what they did on Friday disapproving it is what stands, and the majority also insists that the budget is approved. So both leadership actually are in negotiations with government, and the minority had 6 issues that they are bothered about. They want a revised budget actually, and this budget they do not want the EJAPA deal. If you remember correctly, government have tried on several occasions to get Parliament to approve the EJAPA deal. And in the 2022 budget, it was captured that the deal will go ahead. The minority wanted removed from the revised budget. The minority also wants financial commitment to bring a solution to the issue with the tidal waves in Keta and its surrounding communities. If you remember the issue with Aka Energy, earlier on this year, government brought a proposal to Parliament to allow GNPC to acquire a loan of 1.5 billion cedis to buy shares in AGM and then Aka Energy. Unfortunately, Parliament didn't approve this particular appeal. What Parliament did was to give GMPC and government the opportunity to go back to the negotiation table with the 2 companies. But when it was captured in the budget, it was captured as if government had been given the go-ahead to go and get this amount. The minority wants the wording to be changed in the revised budget to reflect what Parliament actually said. Then we have the issue with the benchmark values for import duties. And these are all issues that the minority is fighting for. And last but most important on their list is the issue with the e-levy. The minority is insisting that they will not take anything more than 1%. We hear rumors that government say it can only maybe with 1.5.
Sure.
But unfortunately, the minority is insisting that it will not take anything more than 1% from the e-levy. That's the only way they will accept the new budget, as they are calling it. We heard earlier on that a committee has been put together, a special committee made up of 10 membership from each side of the House to go back to the negotiation table to find a way to incorporate all these demands of the minority into the supposed budget. Yesterday, they sat throughout the day. Today, the meeting continued. We didn't really hear anything conclusive, but a few minutes ago, there was a release from the Member of Parliament from Mr. Okudjota Ablakwa, who is saying that the minority have found a way to get some of its demands through. What we are still not sure is how much or what percentage of the e-levy will still be captured. So it looks like both sides are still on a negotiation table, depending on how it goes. We'll see whether we'll make do with the budget that was approved on Tuesday by the majority side, or the minority will probably get the revised budget as they are demanding.
Right. So, Humo, before I let you go, what happened to that appeal or that motion by the minority to have the approval annulled? What happened to it? Today, it looks like no much activity in Parliament.
Yes, in fact, what happened yesterday was after the motion was endorsed and debated, and unfortunately, the voice vote was not put through. When they came back from the break, the minority leader, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, insisted that the second deputy speaker, Mr. Andre Amakwesiama, should put through the voice vote for them to determine whether the motion will be approved or not. But it was stepped down. In fact, the second deputy speaker, what he did was to put it on hold. So for now, we can say that it is still on hold.
Right. So
until next week.
I think we'll have to make way for the news at 7 p.m. My name is Maurice Ogbete. Tomorrow is National Farmers Day, and enjoy that particular holiday and the rest of the weekend. We'll see you on Monday with another edition of Market Avenue. Have a good evening and bye.